the research that we've done over many years, both Douglas and I, absolutely proves 100% that if we can change mindset, we can change outcomes. There's a very, very good quote actually by Stephen M.R. Covey that actually says, to change ourselves effectively, we had to change our perceptions. And that's exactly what IBM have done with entrepreneurial leadership. So I think from an inspirational point of view, to change perspective is to change mindset, it's to change attitudinals. We need to look at broadening perspectives, opening the mind to new ideas, new innovations. Darwin once said, it's not the strongest of species that survives, but it's the one more adaptable to change. And that couldn't be more truer to the way we observe, and more importantly, the way that we're seeing leadership.
Absolutely, Jeff. I think we're super passionate about entrepreneurial leadership because we fundamentally believe that the past has got some fantastic learnings, but we don't think it's the proxy for the future. And it's really the speed of change and everything that we experience in our life, from our personal day-to-day lives, our professional lives, our lives in our interactions in communities and things like that. So it's to really embrace a world that is changing at a rate that we probably can't keep up with most days, and to say, how do we have a chance of keeping up? How do we think about this interconnected world in a more holistic way? How do we start off a movement of bringing greater positivity in the world that we live in, live by example, whether that be in our personal lives, in our communities, in our relationships, in our business with our people, and the world needs that. And this is why we're super excited about this approach to a new form of leadership going forward.
And we need to get back to some core basics. So when I talk about culture, I also talk about things like empathy mapping. I talk about compassion with each and every one of us. I'm talking about a shared value system, okay? I'm talking about trust. I'm talking about integrity with one and each other. We can still achieve greatness, but we can do it in a certain way that we build personal and professional growth and development with one another. We are very passionate about taking entrepreneurial leadership, and we believe that time is now. We believe the world needs entrepreneurial leadership.
I think mindset, from our point of view, when we looked at entrepreneurial leadership, clearly we deeply reflected on a number of things, but a small example is how many times when we're in conversations do we say, yes, but, and by doing that word but, we limit our ability to see things differently versus saying yes and you build on. We fundamentally believe that this mindset, and specifically one of optimism and positivity, is key critical in terms of the impact that you have on others and uplifting others as well. And part and parcel of that, of course, is resilience. Key component and part of the recipe of what leaders, whether it be in companies and communities or even in our own family environments, is a key for success.
I like to expand on the word resilience. And so when we start to look at how we support and help boards of directors and executives and senior management teams, we have to instill characteristics of resilience, but we won't do that without trust, because we believe that each and every one of us has to be a trusted leader.
So we embarked on a journey, a really interesting journey of canvassing senior executives globally, as well as top professionals from academia, around what did they see as these new sets of core skills and capabilities as we go forward. And we tested these, we iterated a lot around them, and we came up with a set of skills that don't exist at an individual level, because I think at an individual level it's fairly difficult to find someone with all that, but certainly at a team level, a set of skills that, if combined together with the right people with the right complementary skill sets, unlock something great. Dealing with complexity and uncertainty is a massive area of the new world that we face, certainly because of the rate of change that we're facing. And lastly, this hunger and desire for knowledge. A good friend once told me that your ability to unlearn and relearn at the fastest rate is probably your greatest asset.
We had a really strong debate around the intelligences that you talked about, and I think fascinating. And some of the things we talked about around leadership were that, you know, the new leader coming in needed, you know, EI, obviously, you know, emotional intelligence, IQ. You mentioned SI, I think, and DI, decency intelligence. But if you remember, we had that strong debate, and one of the things that I talked to you about was wisdom intelligence and the importance of knowledge as a part of that culture of learning, culture of continuous improvement within the organization. All of that comes back to culture. Everybody wants to be a part of a shared vision. Everybody needs values. Everybody needs, you know, a mission. But equally, strategy has to be applied to alignment on those pieces.
Yep. The one amazing thing about entrepreneurial leadership is it's highly adaptable, and it can be equally used in small, medium, and large-sized businesses. Clearly, it's got slightly different approaches to it. While when you look at an entrepreneur who eats, sleeps, and drinks their business every day, you know, they're innovating on the fly. They won't have separate locations or separate offices. So their approach to innovation will be far more dynamic. And so, for me, it's to appreciate the use of the philosophy and the beliefs, and of course the systematic tools that we've co-developed over many years, in applying it in those certain situations, appreciating business maturity, nature of business, etc., etc.
We've seen startups that have come to us saying, you know, look, we've tried and we haven't necessarily succeeded in the way that we wanted to succeed. We need entrepreneurial leadership support in for you identifying the gaps, but more importantly, where we need to upskill and change and learn. But equally, at the larger end, we've seen, you know, 3 billion plus companies say, yes, we are doing 20% year on year, but we need to maintain, I need to have my executive team with the mindset for continual growth, because the terrains are what they are today. We need to grow, we need to expand, but we're not going to do that without the right mindset. So I think that kind of adaptable scenario, but I think that whether you're an SME or whether you're an enterprise business, the need for entrepreneurial leadership has never been more required.
Entrepreneurial leadership, you know, one of the areas that we unpack is philosophy around product versus business model innovation. Clearly, when we look at the world that we live in now, the ability to replicate products at a faster and faster rate is increasing. A good evidence of that is the Chinese and the EV cars. You know, they're outselling Tesla now within a very short period of time. So from a product point of view, we are seeing product replication happening at a faster and faster rate because it's there, it's tangible, we can see it, we can feel it and experience it. The new world that we're moving into now is more holistic, and part of entrepreneurial leadership is a mindset around that you can create distinctive competitive advantage by actually looking at the ingredients, and most importantly, the way your ingredients work together in your business model.
Trust is the very foundation where we operate. It's the bedrock. I've talked about active listening, I've talked about compassion, and I've talked about empathy. And more importantly, I've talked about a point of understanding. I mean, I've always said, you know, if there's someone at the back of the room, bring them in. Let's see what they've got to say. They may just have something so great to share with everyone that actually it could be the Holy Grail or the Golden Nugget, right? So on a collaborative point of view, the relationship is very important. We need to get back to a value systems that we all share. We need to, in order to create this shift in societal, we need public's opinion, we need home, we need business, we need governments to actually share with one another. And in order to do that, we need to start with the basics and we need to start communicating.
Many years ago, I took over a failing project, a collaboration project that spanned 22,000 of our staff at the time, and touched 6 million customers. One of the things we did up front was we reflected on why was it failing, and we started to bring in the voices. As you say, that voice in the back of the room that says, hang on a minute guys, we're doing something wrong here and let's fix it. And actually, instead of trying to be the executive in charge and saying, well, I know all the answers, I actually didn't.
Yeah.
And when we unleashed the power of our people to come up with the answers that made a real difference in communities, we unleashed something special. And it was amazing to see the power of one project with a core team of 15 people going to 22,000 people, going to 6 million, and you could arguably say probably another 20 million after that, that you made real impact. I always ask our clients this question is, what's the secret sauce? What makes you who you are? What defines you? What is your distinctive competitive advantage that no one else can achieve? And when we looked at entrepreneurial leadership, we really thought about this long and hard, and we believe it's a fundamental combination of a recipe. And how do you use a recipe and how do you mix it? I know I love cooking, but do I always get the ingredients in at the right time? Probably not. For us, it's about a recipe of a combination of core skills and attributes that we've spoken about, using them at the right time, at the right stage of where the business is or where the organization is, complementing with the right set of systematic tools that we've developed and that are globally best practices. But again, it's the combination of how we use them together and how we mix the ingredients together that makes this so unique. That is premised on deep experience, deep wisdom that we've built up over many years of running small, medium, and large-sized businesses.
There is wisdom around the product, and let me say this, that over the last 6 years, we spent a lot of time. We know that entrepreneurial leadership, yes, it is based on experience. Yes, it's based on proprietary methodologies and architectures and customer feedbacks. I think just in our leadership model alone, we've had over 1,000 CEOs contribute to that, okay? So we know what we have is the Holy Grail. And we are the only company in the world here today with the set pieces that Douglas quite rightly talked about.
The ability to stand back and to pause and reflect, the ability to see one's own organization, one's business, not being in it, but being out of it and seeing around it, and to see what's going on around it is enormously powerful. It's called self-awareness and peripheral vision, and it's a great strength of any individual. It's a great strength of emotional intelligence, etc. I think that's a really good starting point to reflect on. I think secondly, to challenge oneself of saying, where's my time spent on Horizon 1, run the business, Horizon 2, transform our business, and Horizon 3, innovating brand new businesses, and am I using my core assets and capabilities? Fundamental question. One other one is to say, am I encouraging a curious mindset within myself, within my team, within my employees, within my customers? Am I listening carefully? Am I getting that customer feedback? Am I seeing the world through my customers' eyes and my employees' eyes versus my eyes? These are fundamental questions that should challenge you to say, am I on the right path?
Do you remember, quite a while ago, we had a customer, we had two founder entrepreneurs. One was looking to build the business, the other was looking to destroy it. And we had to unravel that, in order to get the company on a better trajectory for strategic growth. So I think active listening, leaders need to listen. It's very hard for them to listen when there are 83 jobs to be done per hour. But there is a statement to be said that, the success of people like Jordan Peterson, Simon Sinek, Patrick Lencioni, and even Carl Honor talk about the slow movement and do 10 things incredibly well, but do it with purpose, and don't do it because it's the only decision you can make in the second or the minute or the hour. There was a Thomson Reuters paper recently, which was very interesting around AI in the workplace and its efficiencies. And it's saying that if it can save 4 hours of time, if we look at the law profession, the legal profession as an example, that's billable to about 100K, but actually that's an increase in productivity of 266 million hours just in the US alone. So if we look at AI and its capacity to provide, I want to use the word super tools, right? Super tools to fulfill our lives better, it will be an enabler for leaders and their people to increase productivity, and more importantly, to allow time to start looking at more innovation, which I think is the ultimate catalyst.
I had a really interesting conversation recently with a senior executive of a large organization, $1 billion plus after-tax earnings, and he asked me a question. He said, Douglas, if I want to cut costs and across the board, what would you do? So I said to him, it's not about cutting costs. I said, see the world differently. And of course, technology is a big underpin in saving costs, and most organizations save on payroll. It's a known. So I said, look at the world differently. Look at the world in terms of 3 dimensions. First of all, the non-core aspect of your business, the core aspect of the business, and the differentiating aspect. And so what Jeff spoke about, the differentiating aspect there, was the customer experience. Now, any business lives and dies on the customer experience. So what you want to do, of course, you want to differentiate at that end of the scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what you want to then do is say, where does technology play a role in those 3 dimensions? So, for example, an organization that has a global presence but has multiple CRM platforms operating in different countries, well, go to one and you'll save a whole ton of money. And so what you can save on the non-core and the core, you can invest heavily into the differentiating, because that comes back to that highly defensible business model that creates customer experiences where customers love your product and the experience, and they keep coming back to buy from you.
Integrity is trust. So if I look at the board of directors, corporate governance can only really be maintained on a regular basis if the relationship on the board is with the chief executive and his or her executive team. But actually each and every one of us has the ability to behave in a set way to a shared set of values, and actually there should be trust in the way you treat and maintain the relationship for collaboration with each and every one of us. There shouldn't be the issue of misconduct.
Yeah. It actually, Jeff, as you were talking there, it reminded me of a journey I was on approximately 20 years ago. Maybe my grey hair gives it away, but it was an amazing journey. It was a large organization I was part of, and we were going through a turnaround where there was a total breakdown in trust. And it was a bank. And so you can imagine trust in banking is quite significant when you have a breach. and certainly the regulators and your customers are the first ones to put up their hands. And so, of course, it needed a CEO change. It needed an executive leadership change. And it was a CEO that none of us had thought would get the nod, because it wasn't a typical profile of the individual we all thought. But the individual they did choose, that board chose, was brilliant. Because what he did was, he kept things simple. Over a period of 5 years, he had a scorecard of 10 items. And he made it, and that was his personal scorecard, and he made it transparent to every single person in the organization. And it was financial, there was all kinds of things in there. But the things that were important was the culture of the organization, the trust in the organization, and we had very sophisticated tools that actually measured this. The trust from the regulators. And it was amazing, because every 6 months he used to do his roadshows, and the auditoriums were packed. People were sitting on the stairs because they couldn't wait to see his scorecard. And he was honest to say, guys, you know what? I got 4 out of 10 this time around. I'm not doing that well, but this is the plans to get there. The next time he came around, guys, I'm 6 out of 10. And that transparency and authenticity and honesty, backed up by very specific actions and tools and metrics to support the organization through that change. Had he not built trust, and his team and all the leadership teams below him, we would never have achieved. And he set the operating rhythm. He set the culture. from the top, and it was a fascinating, learning. So I think for me, I'm a great believer in storytelling and bringing, things to life in real life scenarios, and that to me was a powerful learning for me.
I'm building board committees for one of our clients at the moment, and one of the committees I'm actually quite proud of is the ethics committee, because I believe that's a clear differentiator. But I go back to behaviour. Entrepreneurial leadership and trust go hand in hand, and I think that boards there needs to be more skills in composition around the board to acknowledge that culture, strategy, corporate governance, and behaviour drives the organisation. And I think it's incredibly important that, and I believe that we're changing at such a rapid rate that if we talk about CEOs having a new yardstick, but chairmen also need this new yardstick that I describe, and if they're not able to execute the trusted behaviour that we're talking about, aligned to strategy and corporate governance and audit and risk and ethics, then I think it's step aside time.
Absolutely.
I think because the future demands a different kind of leader, an entrepreneurial leader.